Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to show you how to decorate your beaches because, well, you can see here, oftentimes shorelines can be a little barren. The best thing you can get sometimes is turtles, and those are temporary. And then maybe some sugarcane if you're especially lucky. However, you can do things like palm trees, umbrellas, boats, pool floaties, stuff like that in order to spice up your terrain. So without further ado, let's investigate how we go about this. Starting off for some beach ideas, well, I highly recommend finding a sandy area. So hopefully you have one of those. And anyways, let's start off simple. Let's do an umbrella. And of course, well, beach umbrellas, that's a kind of a staple. You can start off with maybe 3 or 4 blocks of fences, preferably spruce or something like that, but birch could work well. And then we have the top here, and something you can do in order to use carpets on this build is you can use, well, tripwire, which is usually something you don't think about. This is 2025. We don't use tripwire hooks for redstone anymore. So if you lay down a lattice of little tripwires like this, then you can actually start using them for the build. And what do you know? We have a small, cute umbrella. Is it a little top heavy? Yes. I know some people will forego doing that and just have a flat one, but to me that just looks weird. If you're especially concerned about that, then ultimate solution. You can just do this instead. Although you might have to change the colors around in order to make it work better. But something like this works as a good umbrella. So yeah, you can build a few of these, and you have pretty basic beach umbrellas, but they're very easy to make. With some umbrellas in place, well, it's time to add some lounge chairs. And there's some different designs I did, along with different umbrellas. You can see here, this one's a flat design. Some people like it, I don't really like it, so up to you. But anyways, right here, we have a long jungle-based one, using signs, something I don't really use often, but they can work really well because they can attach to things that most things can't, and well, they don't have a hitbox. They won't have weird things that trapdoors cause. Right here, I have a very simple one. It's literally just like a piece of a roof if we think about it, just embedded into the ground, but I guess it works. It's a pretty common design. I'm not the biggest fan. And then we have a very simple chair, using a pale slab, and then 3 trapdoors. So right here, we already have some pretty decent stuff going on. However, we can, of course, continue. So what if you wanted to make it a little bit more, kid-friendly? So right here, I can use some walls and then some water. And right here is basically the oldest trick in the book when it comes to walls nowadays. We can just make a sandcastle. Like this, use some sandstone because it blends in pretty well. It's the closest thing we just have to plain sand. And then right here, well, we don't want to actually get rid of that. And then walls, looks like a castle. And then we can add a moat from here. So pretty interesting. Yeah, now we have a sand castle. It's not big enough to add any details to, but I think it's a pretty good addition nonetheless. Right here, just a last thing for the sandcastle, try adding candles to the top. It's just a little thing, it's optional, but if you're in desperate need of lighting around here, then you can. Also, you can see the umbrella, the flat one, is really hard to see from this angle. Maybe because video resolution, but also just because, well, the angle, so of course that's my word of caution about it. Anyways, now for something that I feel like some people might literally forget exists. You can always look at the beach in real life in order to get ideas, especially crowded ones. So right here, I can add a little bit of wool to the ground in order to create a beach mat. Something like this in order to make it a bit more believable. Maybe make it long like this, but in reality, that would be like 18 feet long, so maybe not that large. But simply put, little bits of beach mats and such can really help add, a bit of realism to it. People don't go to the beach and just stand there. They lay around, they set up umbrellas, they have drinks, and they swim. And of course, while this isn't the most pleasant sea, I mean, coral is beautiful, but you know that coral is animals and typically has self-defense mechanisms. They hurt very bad when touched. So yeah, you need to put a bit more on land, and that's probably why you're here. Anyways, try adding little beach mats, and maybe even things like little logs or campfires around. Things that signify, hey, people live here. And, well, not necessarily live, but the idea still stands. One other thing, you can set up Tiki torches. And yes, this one's a little easy, but trust me, if you just do a few fences here and there, make sure that they aren't connecting to anything, well, you have Tiki torches now, and that's your lighting issue solved. And look, they have a very low space footprint. You can kind of just place them like cacti. As long as they aren't touching, hey, you can put them just about anywhere. So try incorporating that into your buildings. Now, if you want to do a little bit more with the beach biome, well, you can probably build a house. Of course, I've made a tutorial on how to build a much larger version of this. But simply put, there's a pretty good way you can do styles. Over here, I have a more desert-themed base, but things like this, specifically this building, work really well as a general inspiration, because there is quite a bit of overlap between deserts and beaches. So think of it like that. You can have that kind of style of roof. Going to take a closer look. Of course, I've made my own tutorial about this as well, but notice how I do the stairs. You can try alternating signs with these stripped oak logs, and you can see, well, makes a nice thatched design. Well, not thatched, more woven, but still. Anyways, right here you can see sandstone, smooth sandstone tops. The walls have fences for windows. You can do scaffolding, just plain scaffolding. And of course, resin works surprisingly well for this. Now, there's a bit of a problem with this. Think about a realistic beach situation. What does Minecraft not have? Tides. Yeah, there are no tides in this game, so you won't have to worry about environmental concerns like erosion and such. And we shouldn't, except the fact that things can get flooded. Especially if there's large waves, tidal waves, hurricanes, things like that. Even though this house would not survive a hurricane. But anyways, the point I'm getting at. Try a still home. Right here, actually that's a little bit too tall, and letting all the sand down. I'm using mod for this. But anyways, you can see, well, if I have it raised up by a few blocks, maybe put a ladder or a small temporary looking staircase, then you have a much more realistic home. Not to mention, it's actually safer for mobs. Just a few fences will work wonders. So get out maybe spruce or maybe walls for this actually. Up to you whether you want to do walls or stuff like that. But anyways, things like this work really well. You should of course thicken up the foundation a little in order to make it look a bit more realistic, but stuff like this is what makes the build look more realistic. You're not going to have the perfect world where the water level stays at roughly this line forever. Right here, I have two houses using roughly the same template but very different ideas. You can see I use more of a vibrant and more pirate-like aesthetic for this one, while this one's more of like a rural place like Philippines and such. Although both have the same foundations. Both use, well, windows, although using different blocks, and both have interiors. And here's just a quick look around. Simply put, there's a lot of ways you can do beaches, but these are two of the most common ones. And right here, we can already see it's coming together. Not too much in the floor space, potentially a little bit more there. However, there's one thing that really invites a lot of options, more conventional options like campfires. And that's setting up a tiki bar. So right here, set up some trapdoors, and pretty much spruce trapdoors are your best friend when doing anything tiki, because you can see they have that barrel-like aesthetic. Even though spruce is admittedly not a good block from a realistic standpoint, still, it's amazing for this kind of stuff. Along with that, we can use birch planks for stuff like this, because well, it looks kind of like palm wood. If you want palm wood, then your best bets are pale and birch. But anyways, something like this, and then we can do a little bit of fence work here. How tall you want to make it is up to you. Of course, you can use trapdoors, but there's another really weird option that for some reason works here. Campfires. And most of you probably think, well, campfires are for campfiring. Well, I have different things to say. Try pulling out a shovel, pretty much any shovel, and what do you know? You have a roof. Of course, you're going to have to do a lot of trapdoor work if you want this to be consistent. You can see here how they get misaligned so quickly. But simply put, campfires, you should try them. They work really well, and they might be a bit expensive, but they're a block unlike any other because they're so detailed. And well, it's basically like an extra bonus thing you can do in a game that usually lacks a lot of detail. So you should really try using them when possible. Then, of course, set up normal things like barrels nearby. You can put a tripwire hook on a barrel in order to make a keg. Brewing stands work well, stuff like that. Now, right here, I have a little beach bar. And it's nothing too crazy. Of course, the campfire is up here. Cauldron, keg, brewing stand. Not terribly functional. Has some banners here though, which is nice. But anyways, I did these chairs with item frames. I learned that, well, item frames are entities, I knew that, but look, you can actually just have them in the same block, which is incredibly useful. Make sure to use that when you have chairs close to each other. And then, from here, now I have a lot more justification for putting things like an actual campfire site. Something like this. And then, of course, because jungle is a very good block for this build, well, I can make myself little areas like this. And maybe a little too perfectly aligned, but still, I kind of like this idea. So potentially try incorporating it. And then, with these little seating areas here, well, we could also add other ones involving normal tables. Be careful to not cover up entrances to buildings though, that would be quite inconvenient. But essentially, the more area that you have actually decorated, the better. You can see like places like this, undecorated but kind of fine. Right here, very barren. And then the rest of this is just relegated for any time I think of a desert idea. But still, the more area you can fill with things, the better. Right here, you can see I have more chairs, a little table here using some polished diorite. I recommend looking at other beach tutorials, maybe just a quick scroll through Google. It really provides a lot of insight on how to do this, because of course, I can't say every single idea under the sun. But still, this is a good collection of them. We have a grill here, which is 2 looms, then item frames with fish on top, campfires below, and trapdoors surrounding it. Then some tables with some goodies on them, just normal food. And well, we now have a nice beach scenery, but there's something quite obviously missing. It's been in the background the whole time. Palm trees. So let's take a look. I've already made a palm tree tutorial. I think this is probably the 4th time I've made a palm tree tutorial on the channel, even though I've already made a video about it. But anyways, what we want to do is start with a base like this, where you have a few stairs, use jungle, or whatever block. Technically you could use pale. Then stairs in order to connect it, go up some more, then choose 4 directions in order to make some azalea leaves come off it. If you're silly, you can also make it horizontally. You can use cocoa beans if it's jungle, or brown concrete otherwise. If you really want to, you can also add azaleas that are flowering onto it, although that's not entirely realistic. But anyways, we have some more mats here. Right here, you could say this is a surfboard. Don't worry, I'll be covering that shortly. And then, well, we can add some palm trees. So, right here, some stairs, go up a little bit more, around the top in azalea. And what do you know? I already have the beginnings of a palm tree. You can make smaller ones of these if you don't have the time for palm trees though. With some pretty basic but good looking palm trees added, this place is really coming together. And now what I recommend is adding some surfboards. Essentially, go to your grill and put a banner on it, add some dyes, and then what do you know? If you can make a design cool enough, then it can be a surfboard. Preferably use more vibrant colors and maybe make it a bit more directional. The first one is a fantastic example of this. Of course, you can do some advertising like the third one. Yeah, I do stuff like that. Or you can just have something more generic like the middle one. Anyways, palm trees in. We got a bunch of stuff here. We can add a few more mats here and there. But there's one thing that is kind of missing. Even though these waters are not safe, well, you should probably have a lifeguard. Because, you know, people, you can't just put a sign saying, hey, don't swim here. This is a beach. You can't tell people not to. They're gonna evidently need a lifeguard tower. Potentially just a small hut could work, but essentially any form of balcony, veranda, anything that you can just sit on and be on for a while will help a lot. That will be a very good lifeguard station. With a very simplistic lifeguard station, you can try doing a tower, but I'm not entirely sure it works. It's kind of tough to do those kinds of towers, and are oftentimes just better reserved for pools. So something like that with a little flag there will work wonders. Then maybe add a little bit of a plank path going around, so that way it's more cohesive, looks like an actual place rather than a collection of items that I placed for a display. And you can see here, the shore is roughly done. Well, there's not exactly too much you can do. It is in fact a beach and, not exactly a permanent settlement, or just a kind of day thing, more of a party. So of course you have to account for that. However, the stuff doesn't just end there. Instead, we can try doing pool floaties. And yeah, pool floaties in the ocean, I'm not entirely sure the safety of. I am not a legal counsel when it comes to that. But anyways, you can try doing something kind of silly. Get yourself some blackstone, and what do you know? You can build yourself stuff like a flamingo. Get down some pink stained glass. Of course, quality may vary, and you have to be a little careful when building this. But still, even if this one, wow, that's really ugly. Actually, hold on. So, if you do it right, then you can actually have a really nice pool floaty. So move it down one, and then place a glass pane, and, well, the buttons. So you can build pool floaties like this. I strongly recommend trying to build different ones. Even if they're not that practical, they're funny for comedic effect. Now, with my pool floaties in place, oops, accidentally raised the sea levels. Oops, I have more issues now. This is why you don't use work in progress builds of mods. Anyways, you can see here I added a small boat, and then we have the flamingo, everyone's favorite pink bird. And then right here we have the magical, actually I don't know what bird this is, but anyways, he is magical, he is amazing, and he is a better quality than the flamingo. And then of course we have the raft here, nothing too serious, just a slab, a stair, trapdoors, usual stuff. And what do you know? We have a beach area. However, this boat has the French flag, which means the only acceptable course of action is to build a cannon, because why not? Anyways, if you want to build a cannon, well, actually, I already have a mini tutorial for that. So here, behind the scenes look on how I navigate my world. So, going over to the city, all the way to the beach house I was talking about earlier, you need one of these. So here's how you do it. You have a stair here, 2 stairs, and then you have a slab, another stair, slab, and then you need a 5-block long thing. The front 2 blocks are black concrete, the rest is black wool. You have spruce trapdoors here to keep it on, and then levers in the back. And then nearby basalt plus trapdoors will work as cannonballs. So anyways, in order to deal with that boat, well, I'm going to copy over this stuff. So just grabbing myself a quick copy of this cannon, and then return right back to the area. Remember, well, if you're going to have a cannon, you need cannonballs nearby. Don't think of it as, oh, I just have one cannon, I don't need cannonballs. You should probably just build cannonballs nearby. So right here, grabbing my cannon, rotating it correctly, and what do you know? It messed up the terrain a little, but right here, a cannon. It's not aimed correctly, but oh well. And then a little bit of cannonballs. Seems like I accidentally caught some. And what do you know? I have a cannon here, I have the boat here, and then we have the rest of the beach area. So hopefully these tips have helped you out. Anyways, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Upload consistency will be a bit higher now that I have structure gel and I'm getting situated to college. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.